Hello everyone, we will continue the topic OData, and in the previous videos, firstly we understood what OData is, then we covered what OData service is. After that we covered, yes, OData is based upon the principle of REST. REST stands for representational state transfer. It is also called as stateless communication. So OData is based upon stateless communication. OData is a stateless protocol. After that, we started with the difference between stateful and stateless communication. We covered in case of stateful communication, yes, the server stores the session information and data about past interaction, but it is not the case with stateless communication. After that, we took the example of this 3-star hotel and 5-star hotel, and we understood the concept with the help of this real-time example, the difference between stateless and stateful communication. Now, what we will do into this particular video, we will go into the detailed differences between stateful and stateless communication. And after this video, you will automatically realize why OData is more popular. Yes, because OData is based upon stateless communication. So into this particular video, we will cover the advantages of stateless communication. So ultimately, these are the advantages of OData. So once we cover, you will realize how important, or you can say how popular the OData is. And at the last, we will cover why SAP GUI is a stateful communication. It is not a stateless communication. So we will go for the answers of all these questions. Now, the first difference is in terms of session. Stateful communication stores the details of session. It stores the session information. Plus, it always stores the data of past interaction. But it is not the case with stateless communication. It is not storing the state. It is not storing the session information. It is not storing the data about past interaction. In case of stateless communication, in terms of request, every request is a new independent request, because there is no history, there is no keep track of the previous sessions, there is no track of the past interaction. So every request is treated as a new request. Whoever the user it is, I have already used, still I will be treated as a new request. Still my request will be treated as a new request. If I am the new user, still my request will treat as a new request, because there is no history, there is no log, there is no session information in case of stateless communication. But yes, in case of stateful communication, yes, new request, suppose I am the new user, so system will decide based upon that I have a past interaction or not. If I do not have a past interaction, then it will consider as a new request from my ID. But if I have already used that particular system, so system will check the past data, and based upon that only it will consider the new request from my ID. So in case of stateful communication, the past data decides your request. Yes, but here every request is a new request itself, because there is no storage, there is no storage of session information and past interaction. Now I will come on to the first important point, and this is extremely important, and because of this only OData is popular. This is the first important advantage of OData. Now, stateful communication provide less performance, and you can simply understand. In case of stateful communication, there is more or extra overhead on the server, What is that extra overhead? Server needs to store the session information plus data about the past interaction. If server is storing the data of the past interaction and session information, it means that is an extra overhead on the server. And because of that, yes, we will get the less performance because resources are consuming there. They have to keep track of the session. They have to store the session information and data about past interaction. So it's an extra overhead and it will provide the less performance. In case of stateless communication, we are not storing any data about past interaction. We are not storing any session information. So there is no overhead on that server for these two things. So in case of stateless communication, you will always get a good performance because you are not consuming your resources in taking those particular things, taking the data of the interaction, taking the session information. So in case of stateless communication, there that extra overhead is not there. That's why it provides good performance. And you can see OData is based upon stateless communication. So OData always provide the good performance. We can handle any number of requests because every request is treated in the way of a new request itself. Now I will come on to scalability. In case of stateful communication, it is very, very difficult or complex to provide the scalability, but it is very easy in case of stateless communication. And once we'll cover, you will understand the second most important advantage of OData. Now, in case of stateful communication, scalability is very complex. Firstly, we will understand what scalability is. Scalability means what? If number of requests are increasing without compromising in the performance, we will be able to fulfill those requests. So scalability means if number of requests are increasing without compromising in the performance, with the same resources, you are fulfilling those requests. We'll understand. We'll take this real-time example and we will understand why scalability is easy in case of stateless communication, but not in stateful communication. Suppose into this 3-star hotel, today 5 customers came to this particular 3-star hotel and we have 10 resources, or we can say 10 serving staff. These 10 resources or 10 serving staff, they will simply handle those 5 customers, whatever the requests are there from the customer. Suppose tomorrow 10 customers came. So these 10 resources can easily handle those 10 customers. You can see the number of customers and requests are increasing, but with those resources, we can easily handle those 10 customer or 10 requests. Why? Because we are not reserving any resources. We are simply saying for us, every customer is a new customer. We will not provide any special treatment. We will not provide a dedicated resource. Any resource can handle any customer. So this is the way how the scalability is very easy. You are not reserving any resources. You do not have any session information. You do not have any interaction data. Whoever is coming, you are simply providing the support, and anyone can provide the support. So scalability is very easy. But if I will compare it to stateful communication, suppose today 2 VIP came to this particular hotel. So what will happen? Out of those 10 resources or 10 serving staff, you are reserving 2 resources to those 2 VIPs. Then what will happen? What are the resources left? 8. Now with these 8 resources, we need to handle other customers. So they will not be able to handle all those customers. If number of customers are increasing, we need to compromise in terms of performance. So it is very, very easy whenever you are going for stateless communication. Scalability is very easy because for you, every customer is same. You will not provide any special treatment. Every request is a new request itself, and you will treat in the same way. For you, every user is same, every customer is same, but it is not the case with stateful communication. Now I will come on to next point, because you all know if we have advantages, we have disadvantage also. So these two are the advantages of stateless communication, but this is the disadvantage of stateless communication. So if we have a disadvantage of stateless communication, it means it is an advantage of stateful communication. Now, in case of stateful communication, it provides more efficiency whenever we have subsequent request in a session. It is less efficient it is less efficient because it need to contains every information for every new request. Firstly, I will go for the example and then I will read this theory. You will understand in a better way. Suppose this is our example. This is our 3-star hotel and this is our 5-star hotel. Now, suppose I will talk about this 3-star hotel, which is stateless communication. Suppose today I came to this particular hotel. They do not have my data, nothing. I am a customer. They will take my first name, last name, everything. They will take my details, everything. Okay. Suppose tomorrow I am visiting this particular hotel again. They will again take my old details, because for them I'm always a new customer. I'm always a new request for this particular hotel. Suppose if I'm going after 30 days also, they will again take all my details. So my experience is not good always, yes, because every time whenever I will go, I will simply have to provide my all details, because they do not have my data. They do not have the data of my past visit. They do not have the data of my sessions, nothing. But if I will come here, suppose I am a VIP, I came to this particular hotel, yes. So they provided me the card at the first time, yes. Next time, I will simply give the card to them and they can easily check that yesterday I visited. I do not need to provide the details again. Suppose if I will go after 30 days, they can easily check, yes, I'll simply give the card. Yes, this is the frequent customer. This is the VIP customer. So they will not take my details again and again. So whenever we go for stateful communication, it is more efficient, because every time you do not need to provide your information again and again. Just now we took the example because they already have my data, nothing. But it is not the case with stateless communication. In case of stateless communication, every time you need to provide your information. So it is heavier. Every time you need to provide your information for every new request, because everything is treated as a new request. Now we will go for the example, real-time examples of stateful and stateless communication. Your online banking system is the best example of stateful communication. Just check. Suppose whenever you logged in into any net banking site, you will be able to see last login. So they are simply tracking what is the data at last time, what time you logged in into the net banking. Suppose today, if I will go to the bank, they can easily check at what time I logged in into the net banking. So they are keeping track of my past interaction. They are keeping all the session information. So online banking is the best example of your stateful communication. Now I will come on to SAP GUI. SAP GUI is the example of stateful communication. It is not stateless communication. Suppose we'll go for simple example. This is our SAP GUI. Suppose I'm going for SC11 transaction code. So system will simply track on the server that this SC11, I am working on SC11 transaction code. Suppose if I will go for SM04 transaction code, I can easily check that this SC11 is opened with my ID. You can see this is my ID. What is the number of session? Suppose if I will go for, I'll simply close one session. Okay, so I have two sessions open, one for SC11 and one for this SM04. So it is simply saying you have two sessions open, SM05, SC11 and SM04. Suppose I am opening SC38. So system is keeping track of all the session information. Suppose I opened SC38. If I will refresh, you can see I have three number of sessions. So system is storing all the session information. Suppose after 2 to 3 days, basis person can easily check at what time I logged into this particular SAP system. So it is keeping track of all my data, of all my past interaction. Now we will go for simple understanding. Whenever I am doing all these things, it means yes, system is assigning the resources to me. Have you seen? Whenever you will not work for 10 or 15 minutes into the system will automatically logged out. Why? Because basis person set the settings that if user is not doing anything, they will simply release the resources. So SAP GUI is best example of your stateful communication. So because it will keep track of all your session information, past interaction. Now in case of SAP GUI, if we want to release the resources, they will simply check if the system is ideal. They will simply go for logged out of your particular session so that those resources can be used by other person. Just go for simple example. You logged into net banking. You are not doing anything for 5 to 7 minutes. It automatically logged out because they want to release those resources so that it can be used by other person. So SAP GUI is best example of your stateful communication. Now, what is the best example of stateless communication? Nowadays, 80 to 90% of internet requests are the best example of your stateless communication. That's why we are able to fulfill. That's why they are able to fulfill so many requests, because for them, every request is a new request. There is no special treatment for anyone, nothing. Whoever is doing the request, they'll simply respond. They will not take any backup. They will not store any data of past interaction. So nowadays, why we are able to fulfill all those internet requests? Because it is stateless communication. It is not stateful communication. There's no extra overhead to the system, the server, sorry. That's why stateless communication is more popular. Now, if I will summarize this particular video, into this particular video, we cover two important advantages of OData. Why OData is popular? Because in case of OData, there is no extra overhead to the system, because you are not storing any session information, no data of past interaction. So performance is always good. Whenever you are going for OData, it's very easy to go for scalability. Yes, because we can fulfill the request. Whenever requests are increasing, we can easily fulfill, because for us, every request is a new request itself. And the disadvantage is whenever we are going for subsequent request, yes, initially it will be heavier, because every time we need to go for new request, every time we need to provide the information, Just now we took the example, and SAP GUI is a stateful communication, not a stateless communication. Again, important question from the interview perspective. Best example of stateful communication is banking system, and best example of stateless communication is nowadays internet request. What you are doing is the best example of your stateless communication. So that's it in this video. Thank you.